Evening, good afternoon, good morning. Welcome to the Safe Space Between Us. I'm your host, Kieran, and today we have Dr. Reese with us. Doctor, how are you today?
I'm doing fantastic. How are you?
Yeah, not bad, thanks. As you know, a bit hectic today, hence the craziness of me just sending you the link 5 minutes before we're on air.
Hey, I honestly, we all have those days, and we don't get to acknowledge them anymore within like our capitalistic society.
No, I appreciate your kindness and understanding. So before we get started, just tell us a little bit about yourself. Tell the listeners who are listening live and will listen to this later down the days and weeks. Just tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, by training, I am an indigenous medicine woman specialized in rehab physiology, chronic pain management, and trauma recovery psychology, which is my favorite because I like helping people come back from their worst days. I have a background in social work before I finished my training, working specifically with high-risk youth that were always on the edge of addiction or homelessness. Oh, I really like those hard cases. But I'm also a best-selling author in inspirational medical nonfiction because I have written two books that tell my story from the first one, where I talk about my recovery as a paralyzed teenager, and then the second one, where I tell the expansive version of all the other crap that I've overcome in life, just to really inspire people to that you can overcome anything if you try and you take dedicated action every day.
No, I love that. I totally love that. So where are you from? Just tell us where you're from. Um,
Originally, I'm from northern British Columbia in Canada, but now I live in southern Alberta, Canada.
okay, nice, nice. So lovely to hear what you're doing and what the things you've passed and stuff. So really well done to you. So before we get to talk about what you do now, let's start from the beginning. Rewind quite far back of when mental health, trauma, etc. Hit you, and just talk to us what you're able to tell us.
Well, I let's go back to high school. Most people have a shitty high school experience, but I myself got death threats every day for being a queer youth, and I attempted to take my life countless times in my teens until I finally found a way to just be me without hating myself anymore, and really just say, like, screw you to the haters, because like, if you're not doing any harm, why does anyone care?
Exactly. Exactly. So obviously you mentioned that you're queer, and like you say, from my view and my opinion, it's your body, it's my body, it's Joe Blogg's body. It's up to you what you decide to do. It's your life, it's your body. So total respect to you for coming out. Just talk to us how you came out, etc. If you're happy to tell us, and how it affected you, and what was your circle like? In accepting that.
Oh, um, well, I first came out as bi at about 14, and that was not well received. I that was the first time I got disowned by half of my family. And but at least I had some solid friends that didn't care. Also because they were not cisgendered or heterosexual. Um, but then later in my late teens, like 18, I finally came out as Two Spirit, and by 19, I was on waitlist to start doing my own medical transition. And that's the second time where I got disowned by my family, which, I mean, at that point, it didn't matter. I was expecting it. I was ready. But I have to say, like, the community itself, when you're on the healthy side of it, is very supportive. Like, they other queer people will just look at you and say, well, you don't have family, and we've been friends for long enough. I'm your family. Like,
Yeah.
you have my support. There's an elder gay man that has called himself my dad since I was like 16.
Okay. And just don't mind me asking, are you in contact with your family now, or they just no longer wanted to know you because of you coming out?
Only when I need to. I only contact them out of necessity, never out of desire. I only talk to one of my biological family members by choice. She's a great aunt. She's fantastic. I she even buys all my books when they come out.
That's good. So talk to us. Obviously, you've come out, and just talk to us. Obviously, the bullying, and you said you thought about doing certain things to yourself at times. Just talk to us what led after that. What support you got at school or in that circle, and then what happened after.
Honestly, between friends and a really, really good counselor, I had enough support to get through everything. But it had nothing to do with my family. I was very high risk myself in that I'm a teenager and I feel very alone all the time. And that was daunting. I I legitimately tried to take my life by more times than I could keep count of. But I'm here now. I'm at a point in my life where I'm very happy, and I guess I'm fortunate enough to still be here and
No, of
have
course.
to a point where I love my body, I love myself, and I enjoy the life I live every day, regardless of who decides that they can still love me for being authentic.
No, well done on you having that attitude. And obviously, I'm guessing it took a lot to come to terms of that having that attitude. So just talk to us. Obviously, you mentioned that you deal with trauma and stuff like that. So talk to us how you got involved in that. If anything, you went through to lead to what you do.
Honestly, I would say it was the first 13 to 16 years of my life that really dictated how I specialized within my training, because I knew, like, I had always been a helper from the time I was a child, and knew that I wanted to just help people that were struggling. But it was actually at the point of paralysis and then repeated trauma that I said, like, okay, if I can overcome this, I can help everyone else do it too. And that's where I luckily got to specialize in the trauma recovery and the rehab physiology, because I don't care if I'm helping someone heal their physical body or their emotional mind.
Okay, so just talk to us a little bit. So when you say when you deal with trauma and stuff, so for example, there's a few of us who work behind the safe space between us who've gone through trauma of domestic abuse, sexual abuse, and stuff like that. So we're dealing with a lot of trauma ourselves, and many listeners out there have some kind of trauma. So just talk to us what you would do, what the process would be of how to support or help someone like us or me.
Well, when it really helps if you or your friend are experiencing like sexual trauma, to just hold space. I don't sit there judgmentally, just listen. When they say this is what happened to me, sit there and acknowledge it, accept it, let them speak it without trying to fix them. And that's really the first step, because they have to feel heard instead of isolated at the beginning stages of being traumatized or re-traumatized. And I can say that from experience, because unfortunately I've experienced countless sexual traumas. But I I luckily had the right people in my life who said, "Hey, I can tell that you're off. What's actually going on? Talk to me."
Hmm. So I just want to, like, obviously you've said something there, and apologies if you don't want to discuss it, but you mentioned obviously you've gone through sexual trauma and stuff like that. Are you happy discussing of what
Oh yeah.
incidents, what kind of happened? Talk to us. I know it could be difficult, but talk to us of what happened, and how you dealt with it.
I mean, in my life, sorry, I started being molested at the time I was 5. And then from there, I started getting raped at the age of 17.
Mm,
And from there, I was raped a total of 73 times by 9 different men. And I can admit, like, there were some years where I was so broken I didn't want to be here. I inherently, like, hated every man that ever looked at me for years, because I never felt safe until I found the trauma recovery techniques, like, outside of Western counseling, that actually worked for myself. And from there, I took those like breathwork techniques that are equivalent to doing EMDR or ECT without causing the harm. And I took those and I actually applied them to my practice. And from there, each time that I walk a patient or client through them, I don't just heal with them, like, or them, I heal myself as well. Because every
mm,
time you slip into that subconscious state, you're going to continue to very lightly work on your trauma and desensitize the situations, so that now if a man cat calls me walking down the street, I don't cry. I may not acknowledge it, but I don't burst into tears.
So just going back quickly, correct me if I'm wrong. Did you say 9 men have sexually abused you?
Yes, and
I'm
that
so
wasn't
I'm so
counting.
sorry. Like, I'm sorry you've gone through that.
It's more than that, but that was only rape. If I count molestation, it's in the teens.
So from such a young age, so late teen, from teenage age, you've been molested, raped by more than 9 people. Just I can't imagine how it like it's happened. I was sexually abused by one person, like, got 9 people. It's like it's heartbreaking. Even one is, but heartbreaking even more than 9. So, like, how you're still standing and talking here today, like, I applaud you for how you've gone through that, and still surviving. Like, do you still have these dark days of remembering? Because with me, with it, I get a lot of images
Mm-hmm.
plastered in my head at night time. How do you cope, especially that many numbers of being
Right,
raped 9 times?
right. And my flashbacks were bad for years. There was about a 3-year period where I only slept for an hour a night, because every time I fell asleep, I woke up so scared.
Mm,
Because they don't just hit me as flashbacks, they used to hit me as, like, trauma recall nightmares as well. I was afraid to sleep. And to that, I have to say, like, some really calculated breathing techniques. I I know a handful that, like, are the best for calming your body down as quickly as possible. But, like, in trauma states like those, I would say, like, take as deep of a breath in as you can, and from there, pretend that you're blowing air out of a straw as slowly as you can. And repeat that until you actually feel like you're inside your body again.
and does that help? Does that still help you regularly now? Yeah. I, Again, I can't imagine how you've survived and gone through that. Again, I take my hat off to you, and applaud you for that. So what was the turning point for you? Like, I know you mentioned that you've done breathing techniques and other stuff, but what was the turning point for you to be where you are now?
I think like the biggest turning point was actually like buying my first house. Even though it was a disaster, because first time homeowner, when I owned that property, I had the first stable housing in my life where I was in control of the rules. No one was allowed to be there except who I said was okay. And even though the last man actually sexually assaulted me in that house, and it only happened once, and that was basically a record for me.
Can I just say, it's like Reese, like Dr. Reese, I'm just like astonished, like I really am, and I apologise if I'm speechless. It's like, because you've just mentioned again that, so obviously you've been raped and sexually abused 9 times in your teens, and then it's happened again in your adult life.
Yeah.
So just talk to us. Why do you seem? Why are people doing this? I know. It's a harsh question. But why are people doing this to you specifically? Are you in the zone, in the moment? How? Talk to us. I just can't imagine why people would just pick on you that many times.
And that actually comes down to the psychological experience of men feeling emasculated by women that are A, trans, or B, were previously in the sex industry. And previously, I was in the sex industry. Never once on a call or with a client did I ever get injured. It was only ever in my personal life that men took advantage of me.
No, okay. So obviously you've mentioned the sex industry as well. So obviously, did that cause a lot of mental health issues, or obviously you said you weren't actually injured in the industry, so I'm guessing it seemed safe for you. Is that correct? Or
and I was one of the many lucky ones that finds sex work. I mean, I was both an escort, and for many years I was more on the dominatrix side of things. It was very safe and always consensual. And actually, that there are days today, even though it says doctor in front of my name, that I would rather go have sex for money than give it away for free, because I know that there's this contract that if they break that, they get blacklisted and they never get to buy again.
oh, okay. So obviously, I'm assuming, and I'm sorry if I'm assuming wrong here. So you still do the sex industry at times, or
No, I just wish I did sometimes.
You wish, right? Okay, I get you. So compared to what you was involved in, and obviously, again, as an adult, being raped and sexually abused, like again, I apologise. I'm sorry that you've gone through all that. When was the last time that this happened to you?
The last time was January 28th, 2021. I think.
2 years ago. So
yeah.
How are you? I know you talk about all these tools and stuff like that, but doesn't it affect you still to this day? Like, to talk to us, like how many times this has happened to you? So how many times roughly has this happened to you?
Well, in what I would call rape in my late teens and my adult, 73 times.
You've been raped 73 times.
Yeah.
What? How are you mentally coping, like, with all that?
Really phenomenal trauma recovery techniques. The one breathwork technique that I use in my practice is actually equivalent to using psychedelics in therapy ways. And I have found it more powerful than any antidepressant or Western technique that I've tried, and I've tried most of them. And
yes,
that was the turning point for me that really, it desensitized everything. And if you really want to get back to it, the pattern repeated itself so many times because of the man that molested me when I was 5. Psychologically,
Mm.
I followed that same pattern until I could recognize it and break it.
No, I get that. I do get that. If you don't mind me asking, when you was 5, was it someone you knew who?
It was my mom's boyfriend at the time.
Okay, I'm so sorry. I literally, hand on my heart, I'm deeply sorry you've gone through all this, and I can't imagine how you are still coping. And the credit to yourself. And we've got a few questions. There's a question that, firstly, well, not questions, a comment saying, "Very brave of you to share this, Reese. Did you gain any justice for any of them?"
Pardon?
Someone's asking, did you gain any justice for any of them? So did any of these people go to prison? Did any of these go to court?
One of them went to prison, even though I wasn't involved in it. Someone else that he got him. But the rest, one of them has since passed, and the rest of them are out there free in the world because the system does not believe that queer people who are not cisgendered can be raped. Police do not care about us.
Is that what it's like? Literally, what it's like out there? So talk to us how you cope with that. So if the system and the people out there not believing you, not care, you feel not cared about. Talk to us how that makes you feel, and why is that? What to try and make me understand why is that? Because obviously I'm in the UK, so I hear things about transgender and gay, queers and stuff like that in America, and I do agree in certain states it's very harsh and wrong of how yous are treated. So I do respect that, but obviously I don't know everything. So please make me understand of why you feel like that.
Right. Well, in Canada, they don't care. The police are especially don't care if you are indigenous, because even though I'm light skinned, I'm indigenous, and I'm also Italian and Nigerian. The police don't care if people of color are going missing, being raped, or being murdered. They don't do a damn thing unless you are Caucasian and you have blonde hair and blue eyes. That is the only way that the police in this country care about anyone.
So when you report these incidents of you being raped and like, I know it's a tough subject to talk about, but what is the response the police are saying to you?
Honestly, they say that they will go and investigate, and nothing ever happens.
And that's it, they just leave it.
Yeah, and most rape cases, because there is a backlog of rape kits, if you didn't get one because the assailant made you take a shower and get rid of all DNA, then you're screwed.
Mm.
Even if there was a witness.
And you've had witnesses, I'm guessing?
I have, but
And they've just put it under the carpet.
yeah, you just learn to not deal with things, and you learn to not call police. You learn to just kind of hide in the shadows.
So how do you? I know you've mentioned your tools and you've mentioned it a lot, and the mind situation and stuff like that. But how do you get up and go again? Like, if it's happened 73 times to yourself, how are you mentally getting up and going again, and physically? It must be draining, like, to your body as well, surely.
It really was, but it was effective therapy that desensitized the situations, plus having partners that make me feel safer than anything in the world. I even have one right now. He's amazing. He would never hurt me, and he he prioritizes my safety over everything.
Okay, so that's good to hear, and I'm glad that you're in a relationship where you feel safe. So, I'm glad that's the case. So, how, just talk to us how you mentally and physically safeguard yourself now from this happening again.
Honestly, I've gone back to following all of the like girl code rules.
Mm,
Like, you don't ever sleep with anyone that you just met. You make sure that you go on a coffee date with them in a public place. You make sure that like you don't get any gut feelings about them. And at any point, if your stomach turns, get out of there. Like, get out of there as fast as you can. Because I
right,
ultimately, our intuition knows everything. If you get a gut instinct about someone, get far away.
yeah. And how do you find it difficult to trust these days? Trust people? Trust anyone? What's your trust like? Like trust issues?
Um, Now that I've learned to trust myself again, over time, I would say my trust, like, it varies, but if I have seen that they're likely a safe person, then I trust. I might still
Right.
be hesitant or a little cautious because of obvious past experiences, but
Yeah.
no longer close myself off from the world. That there was about a 3-year period there where I did. I I didn't do anything with anyone because I was so broken I didn't want to exist. But
Well,
now I'm air quote fine.
well, fine as you can be. But again, like, sorry, just talk to us then, leading up to what you do now, what your day to day life is like, and talk to us about your books and everything that you enjoy doing these days.
Honestly, I have this life full of joy. I wake up every morning. I drink my coffee leisurely. I don't work until 11. I play guitar, I paint, I do a lot of physical exercise. Like, I try to walk or jog about 7 kilometers every day, just as a maintenance. I I spend a lot of time with friends. I making music, laughing, walking around, taking photos of the city. I seem to have built this simple but luxurious life where I get to just help other people or heal from whatever they've experienced, whether I'm doing like breath work and talk therapy or art therapy, like sitting down and drawing a picture with someone and because they don't have the words, or picking up a guitar because they can feel it but they don't know how to speak it. And I get that, because that there were
Hmm.
years where I no longer knew how to express what each feeling was. I had to relearn them all as I desensitized my trauma. And even my books, I yeah, I wrote them and accidentally healed myself in the process of telling both like the paralysis recovery journey and the like journey from trauma and underage sex work to everything else. Like, the first book is the comeback journey, and the second book is the feminist manifesto.
Okay. So how long of each other were they released, and how are they doing?
The first book is a bestseller. It was released just over 6 years ago. It was May 14th, 2017. And book two was just released over a month ago, um, April 20th, 2023. It's doing okay. I haven't officially launched the title yet, but it's doing well.
Yeah, very very good. I'm very happy for you. That it's doing well. So with the writing aside, I'm sure that's something passionate you really enjoy doing. So talk to us a bit more about the trauma side of. I know we've mentioned it briefly, but I'm more intrigued to hear about what kind of things you do day to day of supporting people or the mindset of trauma.
Right. I would say, like, the number one thing I do for myself is getting out in nature and making sure that I'm present in the moment. Like finding a spot in nature where I'm mesmerized and I'm just standing there for 10 minutes and taking in every smell, every sound, every color, like really just using all of my senses and becoming really present. And that's like doing what I've heard referred to as a high five, like checking in with all of your senses and really making sure that you're there in a moment can be, not always, one of the most successful techniques in day-to-day life when you are trying to live past your trauma and not just anymore.
No, I get that. I totally do. So just a quick one. Did anyone or anything inspire you to do what you're doing now?
Honestly, I think I was born for it. I always, as a kid, wanted to be a doctor, and then as a still a young youth, the elders of my indigenous community, even though I grew up off reserve, saw my potential. Like they looked at me and they knew what I was supposed to be. So they started taking me through the traditional ways of becoming an indigenous medicine woman. And and it was from there that as I was paralyzed, I had already been learning all the mental health practices. But there, they let me really focus on learning the rehab physiology, because in Western medicine, they set me up with a couple useless practitioners and said, okay, well, you're never going to walk again, but you can try. I was lucky enough to previously be a competing athlete in Taekwondo. So I knew how my body was supposed to move. And from a young age, I had actually already been studying neuroplasticity. And I knew that I could heal the body to do whatever I wanted it to if I put the time and the calculated effort in. But it was from there where I had to go and try every practice I could find and see what actually worked and what was just more traumatizing. And it was on my own that I really learned how to do this. I mean, there was occasionally help, but it was usually useless.
Mm.
And
So just talk to us. Like you said, you were paralyzed. So how did that happen?
when I was 16, I went in for a revissive brain surgery to prevent the effects of epilepsy and seizures. And during that, I there was too much blood thinners in my system. The top of my brainstem spasmed, and I essentially had a stroke at only 16 years old.
Wow. And how have you recovered? Or have you recovered?
98%. I'm still working on 2% dexterity in my fingers and my toes in my left side, but that's about it.
And has that took a lot of work to get to where you
Oh, yeah.
are now? Yeah. Again, credit to you. I really do credit to you. Just before we wrap up, Reese, I just want to leave the floor to you and just give you the opportunity to discuss or mention anything that you've not mentioned as of yet, that you might find useful or it might help you tell your story a bit more.
Well, I have to say to anyone listening to this that is feeling really hopeless, reach out. Reach out to anybody that you feel will listen and have that conversation. I mean, I talk to more strangers on the street that just look at me and can tell that I'm someone that will listen to them if they take 5 minutes and say what they're going through. And they tell me their stories. And just, you can tell that just by listening to them and acknowledging their existence, that they feel better. And I mean, yes, reaching out is not the same as, seeing your counselor or your mental health professional, but it can be the first step in sustaining yourself and actually getting through to your next day instead of, like, unfortunately taking your own life. And I've been there. I get
Yeah.
it.
No, thank you again and again. Again, I'm a bit speechless. And I apologise. It's to hear that how many times, 73 times, you've been like sexually abused. Again, credit to, not well, credit to you of how you've come out of it and doing what you do now. And I do wish you the best of luck going forward and with your books and everything. Please keep us updated and stay in contact. And I'd love to hopefully get to read one of your books down the line.
Well, thank you so much for having me today, Kieran, and I will definitely keep in touch.
No, anytime. And yeah, definitely keep in touch. And I again thank you so much. Yeah. So on that, I'm gonna just address the we'll be in contact, and then we can have a chat a bit later, maybe tomorrow, and then just have a catch up. Is that all right?
Yeah, totally.
Okay. Thank you, Doctor.
Right. Bye.
Thank you. Take care. Take care. And ladies and gent, that was Reese Blake. I apologise that I'm a bit stunned. Yeah, it's again, you just don't know who or what people are going through in life. Obviously, yeah, it's just I'm a bit speechless at the moment. But again, thank you to everyone who comes on here, tells a story. That story must have been tough to tell. 73 times he's been or she's been abused, sexually abused, and yeah, that must take a lot of draining and pain to your mental health and physical health. On that note, I just want to say we've got loads to look forward to this week. We've got Jeremy, a great speaker, great person who deals with trauma and trying to make a change as well out there um, with a good following. And I'm sure he'll be a great guest to have on Wednesday. We've got Raylene tomorrow night, which is a very interesting one. Just to give you a little idea about Raylene's one tomorrow night. Um, she was forced into prostitution at a young age of 12. So yeah, that's a tough story as well, which I've already heard. But we're going live with it tomorrow. And again, please do support all the fundraising kind of stuff we're doing for both causes and both children and families. And yeah, if anyone wants to be on a Safe Space Between Us podcast, please let us know on a Safe Space Between Us.community@gmail.com. I've said that wrong. That's for your garden. It's a Safe Space Between Us.podcast@gmail.com. Again, I apologise, a bit speechless of just what we've just discussed. But on that note, I am going to love and leave everyone. Hope everyone has had a good day, a good evening, good morning, good night, good day tomorrow. I've been your host, Kieran, and it's been Safe Space Between Us. Peace out.